today I have hickory, and I have the old vintage high test. And I'm gonna let the birds do most of the talking. I'm just gonna split a little bit here. But I've got another technique to show you. Wood splitting is a pretty simple process, but as you've no doubt learned over watching my videos, there are certain ways to do it, certain ways to not do it. You've also probably learned there's certain tools to use and certain tools to not use. But that's another video. This is some red hickory that came out of a pretty big tree. I've cut it kind of longer than I usually cut it. And one piece splits really easy. The next piece can be a bit of a challenge. And that's kind of common for hickory. In the same tree, it can be like that. This is the base of a really big tree. It has some wavy grain to it, where it swayed in the wind for 50 years. My neighbor cut it down. I came and sawed it up, brought it home. I had to split a bunch of it before I could bring it home. Load it up on the trailer because it's so big. And I knew then that it was going to be kind of a booger. And I'm using this 4.5 pound high test again, just because I thought it would be kind of a good middle of the road. You know, it's not a splitting axe, but it is a heavier size axe at 4.5 pounds. And I want to talk about not necessarily splitting this stuff, but splitting the rounds. And I'll split this one while I set up the episode here. But when I'm splitting wood in the field, in the forest, meaning I'm not home, or even when I am home, I guess sometimes, I don't have a dedicated splitting block set up at all times. And I've got one over here that I've used on a few different videos. It's a big fat hickory crotch, and I could chip away on the outside, but it's kind of short and fat, which makes it a good block. Whereas these are kind of tall and long, and this one's pretty good size. This one's a little long and narrow. Same for that one. But when I'm out there or out here, I like to split on a block, on a round of wood. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a round piece, but you know what I'm saying. Some people say that splitting on rounds takes away your power. I think it multiplies your power because it provides much more resistance than the ground, especially ground that's soft with leaf litter or moist, damp forest floor. If you're splitting on concrete, well, so be it. The other thing it does is it elevates the wood a little bit. If something's on the ground, something happens, you're going way down here, it can be kind of dangerous. And the third thing it does is it protects your axe bit, the blade of your axe, because you go from the wood into other wood versus from the wood into ground. So those are the three main reasons why I like it in this specific order. However, sometimes I've cut my entire pile of wood, and all I'm left with is the stump that I've been splitting on. And when I was in my last video, when I was using this on the hickory, I realized that I haven't shown how to split that last stump on the ground that will prevent it hitting the ground and or hurting you or me. Now, again, this is simple and straightforward, but it does need to be part of the catalog, so that's why I'm doing it. This is a big piece. This one's medium, I would say, I have said. But they're going to be treated about the same. Now, this one has a crack in it from when the tree fell. I didn't plan it that way. It was just the closest one off the trailer. Principle still applies. This is going to be easier. But sometimes, you know, you're not going to have, most of the time you're not going to have that. But so instead of coming in and swinging straight down at it, and when you don't have anything below you, you know, you don't want to be straight-legged like the cuckoo clock man, because if you power through, you miss, that's bad, right? You want to have a little bit of a bend, and you want to start across from you so you have more wood to contact. Breaking the handle is better than cutting your leg or your foot. But beyond all that, instead of swinging straight down where the handle's parallel with the ground, which is normally what you do when you split a piece of wood on the block. You want to make contact with relative parallelity, scientific term, just like that, because by the time you bend down and get to the block, you've got enough of an angle that's safely in the block. That's what you want to do. I'll show you that again. Chances of this one splitting so nicely are lower, but they end up being parallel. Great. However, if you do that with this one, and so that first one I split, boom, went right through it, stuck down in the block. Well, if you did that on the ground, on a round, it's going to go right in the dirt or beyond, perhaps injuring yourself. So we want to avoid that. And the way you do that is not squaring up and going straight down at it. Again, you can do that, but this is the safer, smarter way. Okay. So what you need to do is walk around the opposite edge of your block at a 45-degree angle with your axe, with your strikes. And that does a couple of things. One, you're not splitting your wood on the side, which is okay to try and do like that. You know, if you turned your block over and went on the side, but a lot of woods don't like that. So you're changing it to be kind of partial end grain splitting and the side splitting. But what you're also doing, because you're going to be hitting middle of the bit, edge of the bark. So what you're doing there, maybe I should get to the side a little bit to show you. What you're doing there is you're getting some end grain and you're getting some of that side grain. But then the other thing you're doing is, as the axe follows through, it's going to hit this unsplit wood over here. So it's much safer. So let me show you that. See, it's split all the way to here. There's the pith. We can go again. Right. Now this is pretty short handle, 32 inches maybe total, but you know, longer one obviously would be further away. But you don't want to be, I mean, you can be striking the top of it, but if you strike the top of it at too much of an angle parallel to the ground, just some buck out of the way, like this, you're risking handle damage. This way, you can blast all the way through and you're not going to hit your handle on anything. So here we go. Look, that's all steel. You don't want to be so shallow that you're just hitting the toe. The toe? Is this the toe? Toe in the heel? Heel in the toe? Whatever. This part up here, you don't want to be hitting right there because it could potentially glance back. You want to be square in the middle. Oh yeah. And again, the objective, like with all splitting wood when I do it versus other folks, it's not necessarily, at least at this stage, to swing and end up with two pieces. I'm just cracking her open. Just cracking it open a little bit. Because it's just going to hold it there. Now this is hickory, it's going to hold it there anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is this isn't the point of the game where you pipe crush this. The other thing you want to do, and I'll do it just kind of this way, is you want to square your swings up so that you are perpendicular with the grain of the wood. Meaning if the grain's this way, which it is because it's in the round, you want to be hitting the edge like your axe was going to draw a radius through the circle of the wood. If you come at it like this, it's going to bind up. You're going to be chopping wood. You may split some, but we want to use the geometry of the wood to help us out. That's right. All right, we're split. Now it's block time. See, this is the part where you lose that resistance when it's sitting on the ground. You lose the resistance of the wood. It starts bouncing in the ground, especially like we've had a lot of rain, so it's a little soft. It's pretty hard, but what you can do is now go on the side. Now I use that crack, full disclosure, but you can see this is split up pretty good. Now it's just slicing fibers. Doesn't need to be hard. It's close to the ground. Control yourself. It's a little stubborn, just bring it over. You see, typically, at least on this hickory, the bark is the part that, the sapwood is the part that's stringier. And so you can roll your round over that you split on, find your splits, work on it that way. There we go. Put a little twist in it. People love these little handles. I don't know. Get a lot enough shock out of them. But that's it. That'll keep you safer. It'll keep your blade from getting nicked up. And I know it may look like, man, this is hard. Well, it is. We are splitting wood, so there is a difficulty factor here. But the challenging part of this is really just following through on your strokes at the end, separating those fibers. I'm under no illusion that wood gets dirty. You're gonna chip your blade, splitting dirty, muddy wood. But you reduce the risk of those chips being significant enough to affect the performance of the wood if you keep it out of performance of the axe. If you keep it out of the dirt. I'll show you this one, non-split, pre-split, ready to go. Cutting wood gets me last one. So again, now let me reset, make sure you can see me good. I don't have monitors. Here, why don't we get closer? Why don't we get closer? I don't have monitors. I don't have any fancy equipment. I literally put my phone on a tripod. Super cheap. I don't edit. And it shows, and I'm okay with that. Some people like, man, you ought to get better audio or whatever. And you're right, probably, but we're doing this for fun, guys. Okay. So again, there's our pith, which does matter. These cracks don't matter, but the pith matters. If you do this off center, you're chipping away, man. Chip away is also a valid way to do this on the ground, but that's for another video. So you want to kind of line up with your pith. If you want to use the cracks, you can. I tell you what, this one, it's got this almost perfect split, north, south, east, and west. I'll go there, and I'll go here. We'll see how much of a difference it makes. I don't know if there's any knots. This one looks pretty clear grain. Ooh, all the way through it. That's good. I'm not going to touch that again. Oh, that one went all the way to the crack. That might have gone all the way through it, but we already had a crack, so that plane was broken. Bingo. I missed that a little bit. This method is working much better on this little one. I got off center on my pith there because this tree's in my way. I could think all this through, but deal with that. See, that was kind of a misstroke because of my angle. It's another reason why you don't want to go monkey mad on this stuff. But once you start getting it kind of separated, yeah, be careful. That whole holding wood thing that prevented it from hitting, going through, that's it. But for the most part, brother, we're there. blast through a few down here like this. Right in the ground, look at that. It's not paying attention. So remember a minute ago how I turned it over like this to separate those fibers in the bark? That's what I should have done here. Or stack it on with our wood. So there you go. 2 different mistakes you can make with this method. And I'm leaving it all in there so you can decide for yourself if this is gonna work for you. No editing, no goofiness, just straight in the spirit of openness. I think that's it. I got one more though. I'm going to show you all this one more time. And since we've now got our do's and don'ts fully established, we can go through it one more time. Make sure you can see. Perfect. Same tree as that last one. This is the next section of the log, one way or the other. So, about a 45-degree angle with the edge of the bark, midway through the bit of the axe. Now I know this side is going to be safe because this wood's not split. So I know I can hit against it at least 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't say 4 pieces. I could just see it. Now this way, as we saw last time, we come through it again. This is bigger wood, so the temptation here is to hit it harder. Sometimes bigger wood means clearer grain for a longer portion of the wood. So I'm going to swing the exact same way with the mindfulness that this side's now weakened and I'm going towards the same center point. So I'm not going to blow through anything. I'm going to be much more concerned with my angle to the pith and to the edge of the bark. See, that one split it all the way through. It's already weakened. This stuff is a little bit more stiff and brittle than that first piece. I'd like to get this one more just for size. But that was just a little half chop. I want it to be safe. Now, didn't blow through that one this time. I did that, I prevented that by being a little bit more mindful of the status of the wood and easing up on my swings. Easing up, not swinging so hard. God, it's just, you think swinging hard is the way to do this stuff, but it ain't. Now I've got it on the ground. I want to be careful that I don't blow through into the ground. So first separate it, and then kind of assess. These all are split right down the pith. I've got some wood here that I've been cutting. I'll put it on the wood if need be. That'll help prevent it from going in the ground. I might choke up and chop. Yeah, like that. Slow-mo that one. You can see I barely went through into the ground. But this is the one that's going to be the most likely that I'm going to mess up because it's the least amount of wood left. I might put some wood underneath it there. Try to split that one off. It's split. Some strings. It's being stubborn to vex me, but I'm just gonna keep it cool. I'm not gonna make a mistake. Look at that, there's those pieces right there. This is the last piece. Keep that in mind. I could set it up on this block over here and be done with this. This is just pretend scenario for if you are splitting your last one. You're never gonna split another piece of wood in your life. That's all you got left. Oh no. You can also get a feel for the wood. You got some grainy stringiness in here. That may change the way you process it. That piece turned out okay because all the funk is down in this other piece. All right, we'll flick this last one, which is another way that you can split on the ground. All right, I hope that was fun for you. Hope that you learned a little something, hopefully a little bit of do and don't. We'll see you next time.